a lot stronger, and I think he's going to have better endurance. Not being able to boil himself down like that, and even though it is a huge jump, I think we lose sight of the fact of how much he had to boil down and how gaunt he looked at 140.
So obvious, I guess, because Crawford is bigger.
Right.
Crawford is heavy, like he carries himself, he's very solid right now. He's taller, when you see in the face off. So he is technically bigger.
Hello, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, okay, so let me look at this from Canelo's perspective and the experience of being in the ring with guys that are long and fast. What we've seen come from Canelo is the patience. Something that I know from my own personal experience, a guy that shows a lot of patience and you don't bother him by winning rounds. I don't think Canelo's going to get bothered.
Andre Ward has issued a fiery warning to Canelo Alvarez, pointing straight to the dangerous challenge of Terence Crawford. Ward believes that time may be quietly working against Canelo, showing in his slightly reduced punch output and reflexes that don't snap the same as before. Still, he admits Canelo's craft and skill remain among the best in the world. Yet, facing Crawford is no ordinary battle. Ward explains that Canelo's recent performances resemble warm-up exhibitions, not true wars. The ultimate test, he declares, will arrive when Crawford steps in with his ruthless accuracy, crushing power, and unmatched ability to adapt.
In my case, but I'm really not moving up in weight. I'm just not having to boil myself down. So I think that Terence is going to be a lot stronger, and I think he's going to have better endurance. Not being able to boil himself down like that, and even though it is a huge jump, I think we lose sight of the fact of how much he had to boil down and how gaunt he looked at 140, and even quickly at 147. It got to the point where you start to cut into muscle mass. If you know anything about weight loss, at a certain point, that affects you in a boxing ring. Boxing, maybe wrestling, and MMA are the only sports where you have to tear yourself down for two months or 3 months, not just the training, but the weight loss. And then you have less than or right around 24 hours to put it back on. And then you need to go be great the next night. Everybody else gets to play or compete at their walking around weight or their playing weight. So I think that's going to favor Terence Crawford is not having to boil down 25 or 20. It's probably going to be about 10 to 12.
What do you make of the state of Canelo right now? Because it does seem like he's received a little bit of heat, and I think the last performance, it was somewhat warranted because like the output was historically low.
Yeah.
But to me, I felt like he knew. I mean, Terence was sitting there in the front row in Riyadh. Like, why would you even put yourself in risk when you've got this gigantic fight waiting for you? Like, just get the win over Skull, move on, get the belts, and you get the big fight. So how much do you chalk it up to like, the motivation just isn't there because the opponents aren't on his level, or maybe he's just getting older and, as you know, Father Time is undefeated?
Great question. I think a couple of things are true. I think number one, I think Father Time is catching up to Canelo, but it's subtle. A little less punch output than normal. Maybe the reflexes have weaned just a little bit, but he's still better than most fighters in the world today.
Brian Mendoza, the American junior middleweight contender, believes Canelo Alvarez carries a real edge over Terence Crawford, and it goes far beyond size alone. Mendoza argues that Canelo's mix of experience, skill, and years competing at the highest level gives him the upper hand. While he praises Crawford's brilliance and acknowledges his victories over elite opponents, Mendoza insists that weight divisions exist for a reason. Canelo's long tenure at super middleweight has built natural strength and comfort at 168 pounds, something Crawford can't instantly duplicate. Though he respects Crawford's greatness, Mendoza ultimately sides with Canelo, highlighting the Mexican star's championship pedigree, sharp ring IQ, and proven success against larger, tougher challengers.
We gonna finish this thing strong. Gonna get Brian Mendoza's perspective of what you think about this fight with Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford.
It's so, like, I feel like every day I'm almost kind of changing my opinion, but at the end of the day, I lean towards Canelo because of the size.
Yeah.
But I know the size thing isn't so, like, so obvious, I guess, because Crawford is bigger.
Right.
Crawford is heavy, like he carries himself, he's very solid right now. He's taller, when you see in the face off. So he is technically bigger. It's just the size it's very different when you carry that weight in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to worry about performing with. And, just based off kind of like the performance at 154, although it was against a very solid fighter with Madrimov, I don't know if he's going to be solid enough, just used to carrying that type of weight around at 68. So that's the reason I lean towards Canelo, but the skill wise, everything else is obviously still more on Bud's side.
Yeah.
So that's where my toss up is. So I just lean towards Canelo because at the end of the day, you got to respect the weight classes.
We've been real heavy on this fight. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now, and I feel like every time I've spoken about Canelo and Crawford, the only thing I'm talking about is Crawford. So I said, you know what? Today I'm gonna flip the script. Today it's all about Canelo for me. And I might break your heart in the process, but I got to keep it real. You're right. This is a 50-50 fight. This is a fight where, as I was telling the Uber driver this morning, these guys, we've seen them both make mistakes in the ring, but they've never cost them, right? This is the first fight that I believe they both have are going to get in the ring where the small mistake is actually a big mistake against the opposer.
Jeff Horn, the former WBO welterweight champion who stunned the boxing world by upsetting Manny Pacquiao in 2017, has issued a serious warning to Canelo Alvarez about the risks of stepping in with Terence Crawford. Horn admits that Canelo's natural power, size, and experience at the highest level could give him the upper hand in the early exchanges. He predicts that Canelo may storm forward, attempting to impose his physicality and push Crawford onto the defensive. But Horn stresses that Crawford is no ordinary opponent. He describes Crawford as a master of adjustments, a fighter who only grows more dangerous once he finds his rhythm. With razor-sharp timing, surgical precision, and the rare ability to switch seamlessly between styles mid-fight, Crawford becomes a puzzle few can solve. Horn warns that if Canelo fails to impose his will early and end the fight before Crawford settles, the momentum will swing drastically. According to Horn, Crawford's stamina, counterpunching brilliance, and calmness under fire will eventually wear down even a warrior like Canelo. He firmly sides with Crawford, arguing that while Canelo may control the opening moments, Crawford's methodical breakdown of opponents makes him the clear favorite in a long, grueling battle.
I favor Canelo. Not by a lot, but I do favor him. I just think that, I think the Skull fight was just a bad style. And I think Canelo was like, why force the issue? You know what I mean? I'm up. This guy's running. I'm not gonna take a chance. So I think that it was that kind of fight for Canelo. But Madrimov did give Crawford problems. You know what I'm saying? And where I felt like, damn, at 54, he gave you problems. 68 is different. You know what I'm saying? So you going up 3 weight classes because he was 47, 54, 60, 68. That's 3 weight classes. It's a major difference, man. And one thing is like, right, so people are saying Canelo has problems with movers. But the reality is Crawford's not a mover. Crawford's not a fighter that fights on his feet in the sense of boxing, kind of like, let's say, how a Pernell Whitaker would box or how Andy Lara would box. Crawford is a fighter that works on angles. He's not on his feet like Muhammad Ali. You know what I'm saying? He's not that kind of boxer. So he's going to be there to get hit, And I feel like that favors Canelo because Canelo's going to hit you in the arms. He's going to hit you in the elbows. He's going to hit anything you give him, he's going to take it. You know what I mean? And now is Crawford just going to switch his style and become a mover, moving up 3 weight classes? So now you're going to put all that weight on your legs and you never boxed like that before. How can you do that?
The way I see it, I lean toward Canelo Alvarez in this matchup. Not by a wide margin, but enough to say I favor him. When you look back at the so-called bad style fight, I don't think it was a reflection of Canelo being outclassed. It was more about the opponent's style and Canelo's decision not to force things unnecessarily. He was ahead, his opponent was running, and Canelo chose not to take reckless chances. That wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Now, people point to how certain fighters, like Marger, gave Terence Crawford problems. And let's be honest, if those issues came up at 154, then jumping up to 168 pounds is a whole different mountain. Crawford's moving from 147 through 154, then 160, and now into super middleweight. That's 3 full weight classes. Each step up is a huge adjustment, and at this level, even the smallest difference can be decisive. Critics love to say Canelo struggles with movers, but let's clear that up. Crawford isn't really a mover in the traditional sense. He doesn't float around the ring on his toes like a Pernell Whitaker or Muhammad Ali. He's not an elusive, dance-around-the-ring type like Erislandy Lara either. Crawford is more of an angle-based fighter. He stands his ground, finds openings, and shifts positions to create punches. That means he's there to be hit. Maybe not cleanly every time, but Canelo will find targets. And Canelo is relentless when it comes to landing on whatever is available. If you give him the head, the arms, or the elbows, he'll punish all of it. He doesn't need a perfect shot to hurt you. He breaks opponents down piece by piece. So the question becomes, can Crawford suddenly change his style, add all that new weight to his frame, and fight as a true mover when he never boxed like that before? To me, it's unlikely. And that's why, despite Crawford's brilliance, the physical reality at 168 pounds tilts this fight in Canelo's favor.
Now, so I avoided that. I would bring in specific sparring partners that, A, knew how to be a sparring partner. Yeah, if I wanted some, I went over to him before the day started. Listen, I want you to do this. All right. I'm paying him. I have the right to do that. I want you to move more today. I want you to, you know what? I want you to press him a lot. You know what? There was a fight I was getting a guy ready for, and I was worried about the first couple rounds. So I said, when the bell rings, I want you to rush out of the corner and go right after him. And I was, obviously I had my guy ready because we were getting ready for that kind of fight plan, for the possibility that the opponent would come out that way. So I wouldn't look to get a boots Ennis. I mean, nothing wrong with that's what they want. That's fine. And I get it, the style, the size, the length. I understand. It's not a bad pick from that point of view. But for me, again, I never go down that road because I got my guy getting ready for a fight. I don't want to leave it in the gym. I don't want to get into that kind of war in the gym. No, I want to have control of all aspects of what the hell I'm doing in the gym to get ready for one night. So no, I wouldn't do that. I'd get the right spar partners. If I thought I had a guy, I get guys that my guy could work with, and if he was having an off day, he could kind of, have his way and do what he wanted with the guy. I'd have one of them. I'd probably have 3 guys, sometimes 4, depending on where we were at, with the calendar when the fight was coming up.
Teddy Atlas, one of boxing's most respected trainers and analysts, has no patience for the criticism surrounding Terence Crawford's win over Israil Madrimov at 154 pounds. Many fans argue that the fight showed Crawford's limits against bigger men, but Atlas calls that shallow thinking. He explains that Crawford was debuting in a new weight class, and history proves great fighters often need time to adjust. Moving up isn't just about carrying skills, it's about learning range, timing, and conditioning at heavier weights. Crawford already showed his adaptability by neutralizing Madrimov's strength, and Atlas insists he will only get sharper and more dangerous at 154. Crawford's victory was more than another belt. It made him a 4-division champion and the first male fighter in the 4-belt era to become undisputed in 2 different divisions. Against Madrimov, he proved his ring IQ, patience, and precision translate across weight classes. Instead of merely surviving, He thrived, showing the world he remains one of boxing's most versatile fighters. At the same time, Atlas has raised concern about Canelo Alvarez's preparation. Reports claim Jaron "Boots" Ennis pushed Canelo hard in sparring, even leaving visible damage. Atlas warns this could be a mistake. Training wars can drain a fighter before fight night. He believes Canelo may have left too much in the gym, essentially fighting 2 battles in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Fernando Vargas Jr. also sides with Crawford, pointing out that Canelo's 70-fight career has taken a toll. Vargas argues Canelo no longer carries the same explosiveness, while Crawford remains fresher, hungrier, and more disciplined. Others note that Canelo rarely makes big adjustments mid-fight, whereas Crawford thrives on them. This difference, combined with age and mileage, could shift the advantage toward Crawford. Still, no matter the outcome, Canelo's legacy as one of boxing's all-time greats remains secure. He has faced champions across multiple divisions and carried the sport for over a decade. Crawford, however, represents the ultimate test, a fresher, sharper champion seeking his era-defining moment. This clash is history in the making. Who do you favor, Canelo's power or Crawford's brilliance? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video for more explosive boxing content.